Here we go again. Every morning, I pick up my smartphone. I play the same game, and I tell myself, one round. Just one round and I'll be good for the day. But then it turns into an hour, and 2 hours. And I keep playing and playing and playing until I run out of stamina because I don't want to pay microtransactions. And before I knew it, I was hopelessly addicted. So welcome to my series Addicted To, where I talk about any gaming thing or mode that I'm hooked on. And today, that is the original Puzzle & Dragons for smartphones. So let's find out why me and millions of other players are hooked on this little game. Alright, so on the surface, Puzzle & Dragons may seem like your normal match 3 puzzle game with monsters thrown in for extra cuteness, but that's definitely not the case. You see, each orb in your field has a different attribute to it, like grass, fire, water, and so on. And depending on which monsters you chose to fight with you in battle, it'll determine which ones will attack. The number of orbs you match also makes a difference. For instance, if you match 3 red orbs, all your red monsters will attack 1 enemy each. But if you match 5 orbs, your monsters will attack all current enemies each. And on top of that, you have to be careful with which orbs you match, since each enemy has different strengths and weaknesses depending on their element. If you choose the wrong one, the enemy may try to counterattack, so take your time and choose wisely. Now this is where Puzzle & Dragons, well, dragons come in. Depending on what element you're going up against, like a fire dungeon or water dungeon, you need to choose which monsters you should bring with you. Also, keeping a balanced team is essential because if you match orbs and don't have a monster with that element, it can only be used to help with combos, which I'll talk about later, and won't do any damage on its own. And to add on to that, you also need to level up these monsters through either Power-Up Fusion, which absorbs other monsters to strengthen another one, and Evo Fusion, which evolves a monster to get them to the max level and have the correct Evo material monster to fuse with it. As you play levels, you'll collect eggs that enemies drop, and at the end of each round, these eggs will hatch and new monsters will be added to your monster box. Think of it like the PC from Pokemon, but you have to add more slots with in-game currency. Everyone's favorite. Fusions are the only deciding factor for good monster choice either. Each one has different stats and skills, which can be used in battle after you reach requirements like battling for a certain amount of turns. When is it gonna stop? This is so much info! Ugh. Now that we've gone over the behind the scenes action, it's time to see how the game plays. The way P&D works, yeah, that's the abbreviation, is actually pretty simple. You have a certain amount of rooms you go through each stage, and each room has several monsters to take down. Every monster has a marker above them saying how many turns they have until they attack, so if you can't defeat them in time, you'll need to heal yourself or maybe use your skills to get the orbs you want to use. It's good to think of these like JRPG battles. Now as for how you play, instead of just dragging a piece to another spot, you take a piece and drag all over the screen, trying to match as many orbs as possible. At first, you may think something like, how is that fair? The orbs are going everywhere! That's it! I'm going back to Candy Crush. But once you get past that and it clicks, it really clicks. So once you have an orb, you have a limited amount of time before the orb automatically gets placed down. As you move the orb around, the piece you're dragging your piece into gets dragged behind it. So the secret to getting combos is to examine the board beforehand, find which pieces you can shift backwards to match, look for any potential 5 orb combos, and develop a path to drag it in. Or you can be like little Balrog and just go and hope you drag it around somewhere good. Now combos are usually bonuses in other puzzle games, but in Puzzle & Dragons, they're absolutely necessary. You will do almost no damage if you match one pair. This makes the game even more strategic, since you want to plan combos for either one type of monster, or get combos using other orbs, which in turn will power everyone up. And let's not forget their individual stats. If a monster of yours has a crazy high attack power, you may want to focus on matching that one's orbs instead. To add one last bit of strategy, you can also lock onto certain enemies and do away with them first, usually the ones that are next in line to attack. If you just attack enemies randomly, you make yourself prone to more damage, and not to mention once an enemy is defeated, the rest of the attacks will automatically move to another enemy, so you have nothing to worry about. Whew, so I bet you weren't expecting all that from a free-to-play game, and that was just the mechanics! There's other things like gold that you get in battles that are needed for fusions, egg drop rates, increasing your rank which boosts your max health and stamina so you can play more matches with the free-to-play model, and I just can't stop! But that said, the gameplay may be good, but it's far from perfect. As with many free-to-play games, the main problem I have with P&D is the progression. Unfortunately, the game is super easy for the first 10 hours or so, and you can't increase the difficulty until you reach a certain rank. You see, the game uses a stamina bar where each level will deplete it a little, and recharge either with time, increasing your rank, or the game's real money currency, magic stones. Over your adventure, you are handed quite a few, but these can't be used to increase your stamina. Instead, they increase how many monsters you can hold in your box. Remember the PC? And replenishing the stamina you currently have. The harder missions will begin to unlock once you rank up to 25 stamina, but that means you have to play about 5 to 6 hours worth of stages that never ramp up in difficulty. Seriously, I never lost or was in danger of losing even once. Luckily, the gameplay was still enough to keep me going, and eventually I did reach that point. Only problem is that it used all my stamina and I had to wait for it to recharge unless I wanted to use magic stones. The paywall's a little frustrating, but I get why since it's a free game and all. What can I say, the game was too addicting to let it stop me. If you stick with the slow start though, a lot of things start to open up for you. If you thought Pokemon had a lot of monsters, Puzzle and Dragons is over. Oh my god. Oh, what? Almost 2,000 monsters to collect! Using monsters can get really addicting once you know what you're doing. The game updates all the time with special stages, with rarer drops, and even egg machines which use PAL points, a currency used when you get other players to help you out in battle and vice versa. Not to mention the game eventually gives a really good challenge and effectively gets you to want to play every day. Another thing, I think the presentation for this game could have been a little stronger. Monsters are pretty freaking small on the screen, it's not optimized for bigger phones like my iPhone 6 Plus, and there's only a handful of main songs in the game, which get a little repetitive after a while, but I still highly recommend it to anyone who's into puzzle games. You'll have a blast! And it's free, so you really have nothing to lose but your time. Or you can be like these guys and play freaking Honey Pop all day! So, with all these basics and designs in mind, why do I think Puzzle and Dragons is so addicting? Well, for me, it's because it really gives the best of both worlds. The intense battles of turn-based JRPGs with different skills and type patterns to master, and not having to sink my time into a 50-something hour quest, and the match 3 mechanics of puzzle games, where I move an orb around to organize my field in a handful of seconds. Not to mention my soft spot for cute monsters who can fuse and power up. Seriously, this is begging for a merch line. The game's structure and progression could be a lot better, but it has enough meat in the gameplay that I came back regularly. I wanted to beat all the game's levels, I wanted to participate in all the cool events and get as many monsters as I can, and I wanted to keep fusing them to get the best team I could. So I think that at the end of the day, the combination of all of this is what me and millions of other players really got hooked on the most. Oh man, so this little addiction of mine went on for about a month or so, but eventually it did stop, and I started using my smartphone for normal things again. That is, because 2 of them came out for 3DS, and I eventually lost my life to them. This addiction's ever gonna stop, is it? Huh.